Hi Ray. I I did plan to make this on the fly, but the first draft didn't record, so I know exactly what I'm going to say. I try to keep it as spontaneous as possible. I prefer to do things on the fly because I add up detail when I'm explaining stuff, so it's better than when I know exactly what I'm going to say and singing it. So I try to keep it as spontaneous as possible. I think the first video that didn't record was like 25-30 minutes, so I hope you have time to listen. Okay, so you mentioned that you had lack of rotation. Well, I do agree. Probably the view from behind tells the story clearest, definitely. I mean, that's really a good thing to have the habit to shoot back views and to be accustomed to analyze move from there. That's really a good thing. Keep doing that. Downswing, shores, right, pelvic tilt, style, flip. Yep, definitely. And I wonder if my backswing is not setting me up correctly to rotate. Yep, definitely. Exactly. So there are a few macro moves that are lacking. I think posture could be improved slightly also to promote different moves. And you said you want to rotate, pick up speed and consistency. Well, that's exactly what we're going to try and do. Rotation, pick up speed is going to come from more muscles involved, more more sound pattern sequence, and consistency is going to go from a better release, which is right now there is not a ton of rotation and a ton of flip, but it's definitely occurring, so consistency is missing, and you'll also slide slightly, so that's making you flip a bit, and that's a problem for contact and low point consistency. So I hope you're going to like this video, and I think I'm going to do a big video of analysis. It's going to be very critical, don't worry. I always describe non-optimal moves, so they are going on top of each other, etc. So it can be a little depressing, but don't worry. There are only a few macro moves that are not good in your swing, and all of the other is a series of consequences. So I get very detailed and explaining what's happening and the consequence of the consequences of the consequence. So it's going to be in a way negative, but don't worry. I mean, I will come up with a video of prescription of moves after, and it's going to be more simple. If I was on the range with not a lot of time with you, I would go straight to just a basic analysis and straight up to the prescription. But I think you are working on this for a while, so having someone tearing up piece by piece and explaining why something happens is going to be good for you. So what can we see at address? So I definitely like your setup. I mean, you have good stance. We can see that you are slightly right lateral bend at the start, which is exactly what we want, because we want left lateral bend in the backswing. So good to set up with slightly right lateral bend at address. Right side is strong, you have a good grip. Okay, from here you set up at the correct distance from the ball. Some people stand up way too close and it's not possible to rotate properly if you're too close, so that's okay. Arms here is okay, the radial deviation amount is okay. Some people are like flexing and getting up here with a ton of radial deviation, and it's detrimental for some moves. Some people have arms out and UD, so no, I like this. What I would suggest, because that can cause a few of the problems. So what you're going to do is you are going to understand the macro moves and work on this slow-mo at home in front of a mirror. But there are also a few setup things that maybe you can try and play with. Maybe don't try to change everything, but look if some posture adjustments make some moves better, because all in all, if you change everything, it's going to be hard on the course, and it's no fun to hit it like crap. So you have to play around, film, and see what's functional. But what I'm going to suggest on the posture, here you can see that you have armpits and knees, and they are kind of back. I mean, we prefer to have this aligned and on top of the ball of the feet, and your backside is also behind. So I would suggest having everything moving like maybe 1 inch further, so you end up with the armpits and the knees over the ball of the feet, and backside slightly less back. Because what are you doing on the backswing? You're moving straight forward to regain balance. So there's definitely a little cause and consequence there. What I would suggest too, because you have a decent left hand, I mean, here you can see that here the end of the radius is on the right side of the shaft, so it's plenty strong enough. It could be stronger, but it doesn't need to be, in my opinion. What's bothering me is the balance between what's happening in the the left shoulder and the left forearm. In my opinion, you are kind of externally rotated on the left shoulder and pronated on the forearm. In my opinion, that's setting up a few moves, that's setting you up for a pattern that's not optimal for the backswing, because club face management, movement in the forearms, shoulders, etc. induce scapular movements, and therefore they are not promoting proper spine movements. So in my opinion, you should also try posture is the first suggestion. Forward, slightly forward, not closer to ball, just forward, and with slightly less interior pelvic tilt. I mean, try to have the belt buckle pointing more level. And the second suggestion on posture would be this left side. I mean, try and get more internally rotating on the left shoulder with the elbow pointed at the target, or slightly left of the target, but definitely not like so shooting behind you. And if you don't want to change the position of the left hand on the grip, you will have to supinate slightly the left forearm as a consequence. If you only rotate this and don't change the pronation, you will end up with the logo here. So if it's comfortable, I'm okay with that, but I think it won't. So keep the same left hand position on the club, but try to do this with a preset internal rotation on the left shoulder and supination on the left forearm. That would be my 2 suggestions. Okay, so we're going to break down. Basically, there are 2 things that are a problem, in my opinion. You have the left load, left pelvic tilt, and left hip sagging down, left knee too much flexion on the backswing, and that sets your spine to be flexed, kind of straight, not having perfect left lateral bend that we would like. And on the downswing, and that's a consequence, but you definitely have right pelvic tilt, torso rotating, and I mean going that way, slide, right pelvic tilt, so that's detrimental for your rotation, and that snaps the kinetic change, something that's detrimental. Even if TPI guys love the kinetic change, it just sucks. It increases the MOI of the club, and it's making the arms fling across and fling off the chest, and it's decreasing speed, it's promoting a flip, etc. And the flip means more rotation of the club face, low point issues. So what do? You slide more, you rotate less, you fling more, etc. So it's a vicious cycle. So we're going to try and break it down. So okay, so here the camera is pretty stationary. From here it doesn't move, so I'm going to trace this. here what's happening, you are losing tush line slightly, and you end up in a position that's very common, which with the left knee very bent, left pelvic tilt, a big anterior pelvic tilt with, if you imagine the trunk, you have this kind of tilt in the pelvis and this kind of tilt in the shoulder. So what can we say from your spine? I mean, it's straightish. You saw Kelvin drawing things like so, and here, I mean, the belly is kind of interfering with the drawing, but we can see definitely that you're not having this kind of shape for the torso. And I mean, if you had from this pelvis, I mean, you would end up like this with tilted shoulders. Your head will end up here, so it's not functional, it's not possible. So now what's happening in your spine is also, imagine that your pelvis is going from here to here, so momentum is that way, and in my opinion it's coming from this posture, which is a bit too far back, armpits back, etc. Imagine the club is here and is going to end up here, so momentum is going like so. So you have a pelvis that's moving towards the ball and a club that's throwing here. So what's going to happen for your spine is going to want to bend that way. You do maintain good shoulder tilt for a driver, but in my opinion it's coming from the wrong place. It's coming from left pelvic tilt and anterior pelvic tilt. And what is that promoting? Your abs here are getting stretched like so, and they will want to fire in transition, and that will end up with a few consequences. Typically a slide, typically a pelvis that's not really rotating, a spine that's straight or slightly turtle back instead of having right lateral bend, right side lateral bend. Here it's more front bend. So it's coming from this top position with the abs, anterior pelvic tilt, abs getting stretched, right lateral bend. It's all the same pattern. Here you can see that you will have a left load here. See, you end up here with the pelvis that's we can also see here that the bell buckle is looking straight down. So massive anterior pelvic tilt. Left knee is bent a lot. It could be less. And because of this, the whole trunk is balancing. I mean, if you have anterior pelvic tilt, kind of left pelvic tilt, if you had a neutral spine, your head would be here and you will fall down. So how is your spine responding to get balance? It's moving to flexion. So imagine that you keep this structure with slightly slide and right pelvic tilt. How do you end up? You end up like so. So a trunk that is tilted backwards and a right pelvic tilt. So all in all, you're exactly right when you say that your backswing sets you up for poorer, non-optimal pelvic and spine movements. Okay, so imagine this right hip. Imagine it's the center of rotation of the pelvis, and that instead of having the right hip going slightly back, and yes, of course, the left hip is going to move slightly forward to have pelvic rotation on the backswing. Look how stationary it stays. So you only have one side of the equation with the left hip moving that much forward, and if it moves forward it has to move down, it moves down, left knee has to bend, and etc. So it is a reaction to the setup, which is a bit too far back. Definitely your body needs to regain balance. So what does it do? if here you were to move the right hip there, you would fall down, so doesn't want to do that. So definitely flexion is too much. It's moving your left hip down and forward, and typical response is anterior pelvic tilt, left pelvic tilt, and right lateral bend. I mean, it's not that severe like we would see on some juniors, but it's happening. Okay, so on the downswing, what we can see is that you're kind of doing a nice job with the right elbow, trying to have the right elbow move in front of the right hip, but the problem is your sacrum, your pelvis is not behaving properly, so this should be a good move. I mean, your shaft did flatten, your elbow is okay. This is very good move. I mean, you will definitely know how to manage a club face. Here the club face is okay. It could be slightly more shut, I mean, but all in all it's good. And here with the iron we can see the face like so, so it's definitely not open. You're managing club face nicely, and you're trying to do a lot of moves, and you're doing a lot of moves well, but picture it that way. Your pelvis here is moving forward, and now it doesn't have any range of motion. It stops, and the trunk has to propel the arms and everything, and you know the sequence of flip, etc. So it's kind of like if you had the door with a doorknob here, and you wanted to rotate it that way to close it, to close the door. The problem is that the hinge from the door is moving away from you. So the hinge is moving here, then here, then here, then here, and it's very hard to rotate and to close the door. And Kelvin always talks about revolving door, where the hinge kind of wants to go back and back and back, and that's helping a ton with this rotating motion. So there is a problem with the sacrum and with the pelvis. So yes, definitely the backswing is setting this up. The left pelvic tilt, anterior pelvic tilt, right lateral bend. The right lateral bend is also a factor, because if you are left lateral bend to right lateral bend, the pelvis wants to move backwards. So that's a free motion. So that's why we're always looking at the pelvic, the hip, the tilt, and the spine at the same time. So here, typical, I mean, you're already left loaded, already right hip in AB. What's going to happen? It's going to have more abduction. Left hip is going to be ADD. Then you're going to go into right pelvic tilt. The upper body is going to go even more, and go into a kind of a right arm cartwheel kind of movement. So the tilt is increasing to balance. Your upper body is tilting, and that's definitely not right side lateral bend of the spine. It's lateral tilt, and it doesn't have exactly the same effect. So here you move forward. So everything is going together. I mean, if you look at the pelvis, it's trying to rotate like this. Left knee is trying to rotate like this. Right knee is trying to rotate like this. So it's not what happens in the best, and it's not setting up a good second fire. And it's all reaction. I mean, you couldn't work on these moves independently. It would make no sense. So here you run out of gas, and what's happening? The trunk needs to activate, so the spine is not behaving properly, so the arms are shooting. So here you're kind of okay, kind of retaining flexion, but here you can see it's going to extend a lot during impact. All of this is increasing the MOI, like a nice skater that wants to slow down this rotation. It's extending the arms, it's extending the MOI away. It's increasing the MOI. I mean, it's the arms, club, etc. are thrown away from the body, so it's slowing you down. Because it's extending, etc. The right wrist is flipping, so you do a good job. I mean, you have really good moves from the body movements that you manufacture. I mean, your wrist moves, etc. are pretty decent. You don't flip a ton. I mean, so that's going to be a pleasure when you will change your ball striking. Will improve greatly because you already have a lot of good moves. I mean, you're fighting some things that are pretty powerful. So when you get better moves, it's going to be really free stability and consistency. So. And what's the reaction from this? I mean, the body knows the arms want to fling and etc. So they need to take the whole body needs to brace and stop, and that's exactly what's happening. I mean, here the pelvic, the trunk just stops and the arms just fling, and then it rotates. And all this, I mean, don't look at it as ugly. I mean, it's really beautiful. It's your body knowing that this position is not healthy, and it's releasing tension on the spine, etc. So really don't try and don't be too hard on yourself and judge this what would someone would call ugly finish or ugly fall through. I mean, it's just a good thing of nature that your body knows has to release tension on the spine. So well, that was totally off subject, but here you can see the body stopping and the arms flinging. So somehow it needs some sort of stability, so it's slowing you down even more. So you said you wanted speed, etc. So it's going to come from better moves, and it's going to be kind of free. It's not going to cost more energy to do so. Okay, so what did I say? Okay, I talked about this, the pelvis drifting there, the spine, etc. The pelvic. Here we're going to talk about the sacrum in a moment. Okay, we're going to go to the back view for the sacrum. Okay, no, just I talked about your posture early, and about this. In my opinion, what you're doing is for the clubfish management is not ideal, and it's not setting up easy left lateral bend on the backswing. So in my opinion, imagine here that you're kind of shut, and there you go to kind of square. It's not shut, definitely not shut. So here it's more closed than somebody, especially with the driver, and here you end up less closed than somebody from the same grip. So in my opinion, here, from here to here, you try and decrease rotation, and it's a good thing, but from here to there, the rotation of the club face, in my opinion, comes from this forearm pronating more, and this left shoulder that should go internal rotation is refusing this move. So because if you were closing with the shoulder and closing with the forearm, you would end up with a kind of a Ryan Palmer club face like here. Okay, so. And we can see here, this kind of position is typical when there is a lot of pronation and not a lot of internal rotation. So, in my opinion, setting up slightly differently on the posture with more IR here, more elbow pointing at the target, even though it's not exactly a target, just more a target, and more kind of supinated forearm, it would help. I mean, the movements that would be required to have a decent club face like so would promote proper scapular movements, like right scapula elevation and left scapula depression. And what does it tell us? It's going to be facilitating movements for the spine. If the right scap goes up, the left scap goes down, it's easier to go left lateral bend. And lastly, I already talked about this, and it's all in all the same motion, but if your left knee flexes a lot, the left hip goes down, etc., you end up with a pelvis that's here. That's not perfect, and it's detrimental for your left lateral bend, because your left lateral bend can be developed if you have relatively level pelvis and relatively tilted shoulders. So left lateral bend comes into play. Here you have relatively tilted pelvis and according tilted shoulders, so spine is straight. So little sum up of what we saw. Posture: beware of not being too far back. Here, beware of having a pelvis that's more horizontal, a left knee that's less bent, and with the shoulder moves that I'm going to prescribe and the posture, try to shoot for more left lateral bend. Okay, on the downswing, well, I'm going to talk about this analyzing the back view. Okay, so here from the back view, you will always see something like this. I mean, nobody is going to have the left hip high enough to go totally horizontal or even right pelvic tilt. It's impossible. So it's an illusion from the everyone is slightly left pelvic tilt. I mean, everyone. But from the front view, sometimes you see very little left pelvic tilts. Okay, so here you are going down, and look at the left knee. It's going to go down, internal and flexed. Look here, flex. And if I trace your sacrum, there is no shift to the right initially. It's going left, right from the get-go. Left, and down a ton. So on the downswing, I'm going to trace it. We would like to see something like left and then back, completely like that. We are going to see slight pattern like that way, but here it's not moving down, and now it's moving back slightly. And from here to here it doesn't move a ton, as you can see. Now it's stopping, it's bracing, it's enabling a good base to fire the trunk. You want to use a metaphor. And here you can see that it's moving forward and stopping. So for the downswing, the left lateral bend to right lateral bend is going to help a ton, but you will have to decrease the amount of lateral movement, resist more with this right hip. Right now it's going internal, right straight, directly in transition it's moving internal rotation. The internal rotation, just a little remark here, the internal rotation is predisposing you to right pelvic tilt. There's no way around it. So we will need to get more sacrum move more correctly. Sacrum move going down, but here you already moved down, so the down is not available to you, but it should go down and towards target and then massively backwards. And this right knee would have to resist a little more, so the right hip is going external rotation slightly and the pelvic going that way. So it's stretching the pelvic muscles here and promoting a better second fire to provide you rotation during impact, improving rotation, decreasing MOI, increasing release stability, etc. Okay, yeah, one last thing, I think I forgot to mention it, but I did it in the first video that didn't record, so it's hard to remember what I did and didn't. So here, look at the position of the left hip. So it's a consequence anyway, but you can act on it. I mean, it's the left leg is kind of broken here, here it's like so, and at impact it ends up like so. So what does it tell us? I mean, from here you're very thin. I mean, your pelvis is oval, so if it's that thin, it means there is not much pelvic rotation. Typically, we would need to have tons of left hip flexion, so the pelvis, which is oval, can take that space and get rotated. If it's rotated, you can have right lateral bend. If you can have lateral bend, you have more room for your right arm to stay bent, and that's promoting stability. So I'm going to show you Woodland and Rio, for example, and JB, and then I will make another video, maybe tonight, on the prescription of moves. So here we can look at Rio. The angle is a bit skewed. It's shooting like so, unfortunately, so analyzing posture won't be easy. As you can see, armpits are forward. It's a bit skewed, but armpits are definitely more forward. He's not sitting back like you do, and there is no reaction of the body going that way to regain balance like in your swing. So here you'll see, okay, look at the pelvis, how level it is. Yours is more looking like down. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea. And here is where you're going to see the difference. You still have tilted shoulders, relatively tilted for a driver. I mean, it's okay, but look at the pelvis. It's looking almost completely horizontal. So what's his spine doing? It's left lateral bending. Even with a driver, he managed to do that, which is hard. He kind of has this shape to his trunk. Also look at the height of this and the relatively low flexion of the left knee, which is not what you do. And in transition, he has room to go down and have the pelvis look here. You don't have the room because you're already here, so you cannot do this move. So this move is this here is not available for you because you're already at full range of motion. And this move is very critical for, I mean, the left lateral bend to right lateral bend is critical for this move, and the relatively level pelvis to relatively tilted belt buckle is inevitable to do this move, and that's basically sending up your sacrum to move backwards completely, down, backwards, and away. And it's all the same movement, but look at the level of left hip depth, and what does it gives us? It gives us space for the oval pelvis to take more space. Spine can be in right lateral bend, right arm can be bent, etc. Okay, I'll put him on here maybe. Okay, I'm going to go to maybe Woodland. Back view. Yeah. Okay. So here we're going to trace Woodland's back view. So he didn't move as much left pelvic tilt as yours, and the left knee is not going down like yours. So imagine the left knee level. It's flexing. I mean, the left knee is always flexing, but definitely not as much as you. And the left hip is staying up, so the sacrum will go down, down, and forward. Every good player does this, down, forward, and then it moves back, 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 back. You can see this is a much bigger trace than yours. Yours was like, okay, it's already down, it's moving slightly forward, and then it's going like that. I mean, the whole trace was like that large. Woodland is really going down and then away from target. So that's promoting left hip flexion, sacrum move, good sacrum move, and left and more pelvic rotation. Here you can see there is more space for oval pelvis to take the space. So there is space for right lateral bend. That decreases the MOI, the elbow move is better, the right arm is staying bent, so decreasing the MOI, increasing the stability, increasing the rotation speed, etc. Okay, JB, just a little thing on JB's knees. I'm going to use it. Okay, look from this view how much this moves, how much it flexes. Look in the takeaway, it will look odd. It's the exact extreme opposite of you, but look, it's extending. Look, takeaway, the knee is extending, so, and then it's going to flex. Everyone flexes, but look how little it flexes compared to you. So what does it do to his left hip? His left hip does not have the opportunity to go down, does not have the opportunity to go forward, so the pelvis does not really have the opportunity to tilt down, and that makes his right hip move backwards. So don't get me wrong, from the posture where you are already back, this movement is really not possible for you. I mean, you would fall down, but if you move slightly on the posture, maybe you will be able to do this kind of thing where you flex the left knee really a tiny amount, so left hip is higher, belt is going to look more level with tilted shoulders. So what does it promote? It promotes left lateral bend. What does left lateral bend promote? Right lateral bend in transition, no ab contraction like you. And what does it do? It's here, imagine the spine is going from there to there. Imagine the sacrum will follow. It's going to go back and away from the target. It's a consequence. I mean, it has no choice. So here you can see the amount of left hip flexion. So rotated oval pelvis, right lateral bend, decreasing MOI, more space for the right elbow, more rotation, so less flip. Right arm stays bent, more consistency, release more accurate, and more speed, and no bracing against the flinging trunk and flinging arms. And lastly, I would look on here for the transition. Okay, so here, imagine this and this. This is going to rotate like so, and this knee is going to resist a ton. So look how the kneecap is not moving a lot compared to the pelvis. So what does it tell us? It means the right hip is going external rotation and the pelvis is rotating away. So both are creating tensions in this area, which will create a powerful second fire, increasing the rotation during impact, decreasing the risk of flipping, etc., unstable release, etc. So that's also something that we will have to work on, but everything will work in the same direction. There are going to be just a few suggestions of moves, maybe 2 or 3, not more. So this video seems very critical, but don't worry, it's just explaining in detail what's happening and why you get so many non-optimal looks. But all in all, it's just a few macro moves that are missing, because you do a good job with the club face, you do a good job with release. I mean, it's going to go, you're going to hit it well, even doing the changes is going to be fine. Okay, I'll show you again. Here, the right kneecap kind of resisting the whole pelvis turn, moving away from the pelvis. The pelvis is moving away from the right knee, however you look at it. And there you go. Okay, so sum up. Okay, it's already a very dense video. Sum up. Here, posture, move it slightly forwards to have the armpits over and the knees over the ball of the feet, not that much back, because your pelvis moves like so, the club moves like so, so impossible to avoid left knee flexion, left hip sagging down, left pelvic tilt, anterior pelvic tilt, and right lateral bend. Okay, on the posture, try to have this left arm more internal rotation and left forearm more supinated, so it sets up different moves for the backswing. being left scap elevation, right scap elevation, left scap depression, which is helping all in all the left lateral bend pattern. Downswing, you will have left lateral bend to right lateral bend freely, so I'm pretty sure your sacrum will move away from target better than it is now. If you correct the posture and don't have the left hip sagging down, etc., I think you won't have the reaction of slide, right pelvic tilt away. And also try and have the right knee going that way with the pelvis going that way. But that's going to be kind of natural. I mean, with the prescription I'm going to do, I think it will be happening naturally. Okay, I hope it's not too much. I mean, there are just a few macro moves missing. I think Kelvin would fix you in like 2 hours. I will try to give you the best prescription to make the changes and go fast. And let me know if you have any questions, of course. Bye.